Good morning. We're live. Myself and Daniel. I'm Sano Stanty with Sano Stanty Real Estate and Dan Stanty. And we're short a couple of team members today. So we recruited Isla, who's off camera. And I thought our idea was that we would just get a consumer's perspective. And so Isla's going to, well, not pretend to be a consumer because she's a consumer. And she'll be asking us questions about from that perspective. So, it's kind of I don't know, call it a random show. We're just going to answer. We don't know questions. Yeah. We don't know what questions Isla's got for us, but we're just going to answer real estate questions from consumer perspective.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Isla.
So how do you appraise a home to determine the market value?
Well, appraisals, I'll just speak to what, appraisals, there's market value and then there's value, there's a appraised value, I would say. And they're not always the same. They're supposed to be the same. But appraisers have certain parameters that they have to work within. And those parameters are generally that they have to work, they have to take data within the last 6 months and they can't forward, they can't project forward. They just kind of have to take the value of the property that occurred in the last 6 months. So the value, you can see that in a rapidly rising market, then the value of a home isn't necessarily the appraised value, because you'd have to, the appraised value has to be based on what happened in the last 6 months. That's one angle. Daniel, you got
well, and you make an interesting point about appraisals looking back 6 months and people buying properties today hoping they're going to appraise, right? So if people are putting in financing conditions, or even a financing condition could rely on an appraisal that's looking at data from 6 months ago. And we're seeing in this market, if you look at data from January 1st or earlier, it's far different than data from January 1st and later. So an appraisal in a market, maybe you're looking at a unique property where there's not a lot of comparable sales. It's going to be tough to get that property to appraise at today's market value, which is higher than it was after December last year. So yeah, with those parameters that appraisers have, it can be challenging sometimes getting those financing conditions cleared in a satisfactory way to the buyer.
Yeah, it's also compounded. Like when we go to evaluate properties, and I guess this speaks to the value of a realtor and having good data and being plugged into the market so that you know where the market's heading in each particular neighborhood, because the market could be going up, even though the value is a certain amount today. And you're gonna list your home in a month, let's say. It could be significantly different even in a month from today. So. The value of speaking to a realtor who's plugged into the market.
Well, that brings me to my next question. So why work with an agent rather than sell your home privately?
Good question.
Well, it would be great if we had Michael Boosley on, who he got a call about 2 weeks ago from a client who had used a service that did not involve a realtor to get on the MLS. And there's nothing wrong with those services, but they felt that they, in that particular instance, didn't have any guidance in a market that is, for most people, moving so swiftly they can't keep up. We had sold a house, I think it was 2 or 3 doors down from this particular client over the weekend, and these folks had been on the market for a month, and so they called and said, "I don't know what I'm doing wrong here, but it's something. I need your help." And it's just one anecdote, but it speaks to the value of experience, the value of not just, I don't want to say throwing a dart for pricing, but really being strategic about pricing, and some proven systems, some proven methods of marketing a home.
Yeah, those are all good points, Daniel. And I'll add to that. When you use those services, or if you sell it on your own, you pay for all of those costs up front. So you pay for the cost of marketing, or you pay a service up front, and some of those are, I don't know, as much as $10,000 or more. up front, whether you sell the home or you don't. And so you pay that cost, and then you kind of roll the dice and see if, so you've spent your money, your time, because you typically stage it, show it, prep it, advertise it, and spend your time doing all of that yourself and organizing it. And it's not a simple matter to organize showings. And then if you're not successful, it's just money out the door. And then you hire a realtor. So when you hire a realtor, of course, it's all continued. We don't get paid till the house sells. So it really doesn't cost you anything to use a real estate agent until we're successful. And we're only successful under the terms that you want us to be successful under, or that we agree, of course.
So do you develop customized marketing strategies for each client?
We do. And in fact, not only for each client, for example, in the case of a seller, we take that, we actually identify who the particular buyer. So we actually talk about, the demographic and psychographic of the particular buyer that would be buying this home, and do we develop all of the marketing to be directed to that particular person. So yes, it's customized not only to the particular house, but to the buyer who will be buying that house. Dan, do you want to add to that? Or?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of touched on most of what I was thinking. The every market, and I shouldn't say every market, every region, and every I guess with market timing, like right now we're seeing a lot of buyers coming from out of province, and so knowing that and being able to sort of tailor the marketing to hit those folks, and just knowing the channels that they're being exposed to, then we can tailor the marketing to get the most exposure to those buyers that are willing to in this market, it seems like, pay the most.
Right. So then, with that being said, how long should a house sit on the market before you adjust the price of a marketing strategy?
Another good question. Where are you getting all your questions from?
In this market, it seems like it's moving so quickly that if you're on the market over a weekend and you don't get an offer, at least, then there's a good chance that you're priced high. There still are some markets that townhouses, condos, apartments that are not moving as swiftly, and so it might not be that quick. But single family detached in the suburbs, that could be a good sign.
Yeah, good point, Dan. And I think it's a moving target. It's a moving target. Back in the day, it was like 45 days if you didn't have an offer, but today it's more like a week or two. If you haven't had an offer, you need to adjust the price, because obviously you've missed the market. So it all depends on a lot of factors. Sometimes it's more art than science. You just gonna have to have a feel for the market in every particular neighborhood.
So I guess, what's the conversation like with a client when they have their own idea about what the value of their home is?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes those are interesting conversations. I'll say that.
Do you want to speak to that from the seller's perspective, and maybe I'll speak to that from the buyer's perspective?
Yeah, well, you don't know. I've got those extra nails under the stairs and all these, yeah. So I'm speaking in jest, of course, but so sometimes a seller has put a lot into a home that is not marketable. So, if you put in that really gorgeous shag carpet that you love, and you imported it from Italy, you may not get the $10,000 extra value for it. So, sometimes, of course, they're misaligned, and sometimes, quite frankly, so the ideas of value are misaligned from the market and from the seller. And really, it's up to us as an agent to determine not what we think it's worth, but what the market will bring for it. And that goes back to the point of appraisers, the appraisal point that we talked about earlier. But I guess in defense of sellers, there have been cases where the sellers have had a good point. We've tried it. We try the price higher sometimes, and sometimes we're successful because you either they just get lucky, or there really is value in that home that a particular buyer recognizes. Daniel, what do you?
Well, yeah, I think that when it comes to buying right now and sort of trying to nail down market value, especially also there's a couple factors in the market right now. There's limited inventory, although it's increasing, but limited inventory. We often counsel our buyers to buy what you can't change, right? So buy good bones, buy good location, and if you don't like that shag carpet from Italy, tear it out and replace it. That's something that you can change. If you don't like the white appliances, maybe next year you can save up enough to buy stainless appliances or whatever suits your fancy. So, buy what you can't change, and that's look at those components of the home to find value rather than the cosmetic pieces.
Yeah, good points.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just a couple final questions. So, can my agent provide information regarding properties from other realty companies?
Yeah, so yes, you can, because most agents, I'll say, I guess probably 85% of the agents, at least in Alberta, are part of an MLS system, and so we have a cooperative agreement to work together. So that information is available across all brokerages, but not all brokerages are members of the MLS. Some are exclusive, some work independently. They're not members of the cooperative. Doesn't mean that they won't be able to work cooperatively with the other parties, but it's interesting that in Canada, so we have not a regional MLS, but it kind of acts, it appears like a regional MLS in that Realtor.ca has all of the listings pretty much, like, I guess I have to say, 95% of every listing is available on Realtor.ca. And that, I don't know, that I just pulled that number out of the air. But I mean, there's no reason why any agent who's a member of Organized Real Estate would not list it on Realtor.ca. And it happens pretty much automatically if you're a member. We're one of the few countries in the world that has a regional MLS advertising system like that, where you can have access to all of the active inventory. In other jurisdictions, like in the US, let's say if you're in California, there's like, I don't know, there's 5 or 8 different MLSs, and you have to search every one of them to make sure you didn't miss something. So it's really a benefit to consumers in Canada to have access to Realtor.ca, which pretty much has all of the stuff on it. And the other benefit is that it's owned by Organized Real Estate, and so the costs are minimal. It doesn't cost thousands of dollars every month for every agent to maintain that, as it does in other jurisdictions. I think I recall like an area like Australia cost every agent to advertise, it's like $10,000 or $15,000 every month just to be part of that, the advertising system that has critical mass. So it really benefits the consumer in a couple of ways. You have access to every listing that's available, pretty much, and it keeps the cost down. So your cost of advertising doesn't get passed on, and it's not a massive cost for the consumer. Anything you want to add to that, Daniel?
Yeah, I guess that it's an interesting. There's an interesting dynamic happening in the market, particularly I would say in the Toronto area, where properties don't make it to the MLS. They actually have sort of a pre-MLS MLS within cooperating groups, within brokerages, within teams, and a lot of properties in that market are being sold before they hit MLS. But because they have a system like the MLS, that's a smaller subset of the larger MLS. The same kind of principles are at work, but they're just sort of within a team or within a brokerage. So yeah, generally yes, but there are some caveats in certain regions.
Yeah, good points.
Yeah. Thank you. So when a consumer is choosing an agent, let's say they're new to town, should they be taking into consideration the brokerage that the agent is working with?
That's a good question, Daniel. I'll let you.
Well, I think that the brokerage can play an important role in the agent's organization, in the agent's competency, and so on. But we're finding more and more that agents are really sort of solo entrepreneurs unto themselves, and the brokerage is a requirement of licensing. And so, there's a shift in the marketplace right now where it used to be you'd fly the banner of your brokerage, and we're seeing more and more agents are doing their own marketing for their own name, and less relying on the brokerage for that kind of stuff. So, so the brokerage, as long as they provide good systems, as long as they provide good support to the agent, so that if they're ever in a situation they haven't come across, that they can find the answers they need, then I would say that the brokerage matters. But largely today, the brokerage is taking a backseat to the individual agents' marketing and their own level of competency.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that back in the day, the brokerage brought tools and technology to the front where they could be applied, where the agent could apply them, and sometimes it was proprietary, and then sometimes it wasn't. But they would hang their hat on that. Today, they've kind of there really is a bit of a level playing field, although technology and back end office and support for the agent is still very critical. And I think that's the reason that agents, move to different or will hang their hat at a brokerage. So to answer that, in the past, if you went to a big name brokerage, you would go there because you could rely on those tools. And today, you really rely on the reputation of the agent more than the brokerage, I would say. So.
Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for having me, and it's been a very informative session for me. I think I'm ready to sign up San Jose real estate agent and buy a house in Calgary. I'm from Vancouver, so I mean the market there is absolutely unattainable for a lot of people. So thank you both.
Thank you, Isla.
All right. Okay. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll catch you again in a couple of weeks.
Bye for now.
Bye.